Walt Whitman said, "You have not known what you are. You have slumbered upon yourself all your life. Whoever you are, claim your own." The ideas presented in the epic inner journey, The Choice is Yours, Volumes 1 and 2, provide a new mental platform from which you can begin to view yourself, life, and the world from an entirely new perspective. If you choose to integrate the ideas and instruction contained in this book into your life will miraculously begin to change. Things that you may have once considered beyond your reach, such as peace, joy, and happiness, will begin to visit you more often. You will discover that peace, joy, and happiness already reside within you, but have been hidden behind a tightly woven veil of lies and self-deception. As you gradually uncover, expose, and renounce the lies that you have unwittingly been telling yourself about yourself and the world, you set yourself free from what has kept you bound. The epic inner journey, The Choice is Yours, is simply a reminder that you do have a choice. At any time, you can choose to leave the smothering confines of your old inner world behind and make a course for the new. A glorious new world already exists and patiently awaits your return. Johann Goethe said, "Every man has within himself a continent of undiscovered character. Happy is he who proves to be the Columbus of his spirit." Countless generations of human beings have lived in a darkened state of consciousness for a very long time. This darkened state of consciousness continues to be passed from one unsuspecting generation to the next. Thus it continues. What has seemed like a state of wakefulness has in fact been a protracted, macabre nightmare, or a worldwide deadly affliction that is referred to in this book as a state of continuous sleepwalking. The insightful words of Leo Tolstoy bear repeating. As a man in his sleep doubts the reality of his nightmare and yearns to awaken and return to real life, so the average man of our day cannot, in the depth of his heart, believe the terrible condition in which he finds himself, and which is growing worse and worse, to be the reality. He yearns to attain a higher reality, the consciousness of which is already within him. Our average man has but to make a conscious effort and ask himself, is not all this an illusion? In order to feel like an awakened sleeper, transported from the hypothetical and horrible nightmare world into a living, peaceful, and joyous world of reality. Do you think it is negative or inappropriate to acknowledge the true state of affairs? For as long as human beings refuse to acknowledge the true state of affairs, there is no starting point for a new beginning. They will continue to repeat and tenaciously hold on to the same old patterns of abhorrent behavior and imprudent beliefs that have thus far been able to successfully eliminate each previous generation. If we continue to delude ourselves that somehow we will be able to think our way out of the current mess we are in, or that we will be saved by divine intervention. Both of these misguided assumptions carry the heaviest of penalties. How many civilizations have come and gone, all clinging to these same imprudent, death-dealing assumptions. Clearly, we're next if we continue down the path we are now on. Time is running out for mankind. What is it going to take for human beings to realize the severity of the situation now unfolding on Earth? We are not playing a meaningless video game. There are life and death consequences directly related to our individual and collective behavior. Who is willing to acknowledge that the present grievous state of the world is the direct result of countless generations of human beings living in a state of incessant inner darkness? Before the well-entrenched inner darkness can be dispelled, it must first be acknowledged. The meaning of the words darkened states and ego self are equivalent. The ego self constitutes the personification of the darkened states that reside within each individual. It is by courageously acknowledging the darkness that now resides within oneself that initiates the life-saving process referred to as salvation. Salvation is not the salvation of the human ego self, paradoxically. It is the complete dissolution of the ego self. It is the continued identification with the spurious ego self that is the source of every problem that now confronts mankind. Don't expect salvation to be handed to you on a silver platter. You are totally responsible for purging the darkness that now exists within your inner kingdom, your state of consciousness. Mindful, heartfelt purging will gradually free you from all the pernicious darkened states that have been the source of all your familiar confusion and suffering. You can get off the ghastly human nature merry-go-round, but not until you are willing to honestly face the darkened states that now inhabit your inner world. Honest self-effacing is most effective when immediately followed by your heartfelt resolve to no longer allow your future behavior to be governed and controlled by noxious, life-eroding, darkened states of consciousness. Now that you understand the underlying true cause for all the confusion, pain, and suffering in your life and the life of others, what are you going to do with your newfound understanding? Let it be clearly understood. The purpose for the epic inner journey is not to save or improve the ego self. That would achieve absolutely nothing, except to possibly postpone the ego self's inevitable demise a little while longer. When the epic inner journey is undertaken for self-centered, selfish purposes, the imprudent pilgrim will find themselves right back where they started. Inherent within all self-centered, self-serving behaviors are contained the seed of their eventual destruction. The world reveals this undeniable fact for anyone with eyes to see. It is quite easy to recognize and judge the dark states that exist in our fellows. To acknowledge those same dark states within oneself requires a depth of personal honesty very few human beings are willing to direct their attention to. Until there is a willingness to face the dark states that exist within ourselves, and a firm resolve to no longer allow our behavior to be governed and controlled by these ruinous dark states, the tragic world situation will remain unchanged. We each play our part in the worldwide restoration of human consciousness by deliberately letting go of the dark states that we find sequestered within ourselves. One question remains to be asked: are you willing to do your part? Ultimately, the fate of humankind will be determined by how each individual chooses to respond to that question. As always, the choice is yours. You need only be willing to take the first step over and over again into the unknown. Your epic inner journey has now begun. Stay the course. Victory is certain.